As a parent, as an educator, and maybe as a principal, you're thinking about preschool. When finally can children go back to preschool, and what is important to think about? In this regard, we have to realize that the world at the present moment is very different. We have areas where there's a normal approach to preschool. We have areas where children are home since March. They did not yet go back to preschool, and there are some kind of models that we really have to rethink. So today I'd like to give you some ideas what should be in your mind. Because what we have to realize, we as parents, as educators, and as principals of schools or as owners of schools, of course we don't want the children to be affected in a bad way. So in regard to that, we also have to understand that this present situation is kind of a little bit an unrealistic state, because number one, we never experienced such a situation. So to understand how to cope with it is really important to study the matter very deeply. Secondly, there's so much controversy in information that we get. So one says it's super dangerous, and then we have the other side who says it's actually just a flu. So between that, there's almost nothing that we can hold on which is a realistic information. And so this is why you have to become very, very calm as a mother, as a father, as an educator, and as a principal, and start to analyze what's really going on in your area. So number one, always focus on your regional area. That's really important. Do not think about what the rest of the world is doing, because the rest of the world might be in a different situation than you are in. You are in your region as a parent or as an educator or as a principal. And this is the area that you have to look at, because this is the area where you are operating. But then there's a second step. So what is the second step? The second step is that you have to understand what you're really dealing with. I suggest in that regard that you do some analysis and study. See that you get some information besides what is in the newspaper, what is in the media. How many children in the age that you are having in your preschool, you are taking care, are affected by the coronavirus? How many are tested positive? Let's say you have 100,000 children. If 10 test positive, it is a different risk factor for you, and you have to take different precautions than if you have 1,000 or even 10,000 of children that age that you are working with who test positive. So that is one number. That's a realistic number. Try to see that you get the number. Next, study how many children, the age that you take care, who are contracted with coronavirus, really have severe sicknesses or die. So also here, make a very clear calculation. It's important for you to analyze, because as there is so much fear built up, and whenever there is emotion, this is how it is in business also. Whenever everything is very emotional, you have to become very calm, you have to disconnect, you have to see that you're not becoming emotional, and then you do the proper calculation. So if you can figure out the numbers, it helps you to really understand in what risk area you are. And some of you might deal with really high numbers, and some of you might deal with low numbers. One point is, again, the children you're taking care. Are they living in a joint family system where you have a lot of older people who might be at risk if they are getting the coronavirus? Or are you having lots of children where the parents are young, vital people who live with their child in a family situation? Are the parents constantly interacting with hundreds and thousands of different peoples? And what kind of peoples? We know that certain group of people take very high precautions. Some people are more cautious and some people are less cautious. But we know that not everyone is aware about that. So you need to know, are you dealing with parents who are aware about the situation, who are really taking precautions and measurements? Or are you working with people who are just not caring about? If it is dangerous or not, I think we cannot yet say. That's my personal observation, because there's so much information from experts. We might know in 2 or 3 years. We need to deal with the numbers and with the situation around. There's another factor. Parents and educators need to interact a lot. It's important to figure out, are the educators scared about the coronavirus? Is there anyone who is a risk person? This person should stay home, should be safe, should be where they feel safe. When a person doesn't feel safe, it makes them vulnerable to whatever comes. Same is true for the parents. If the parents don't feel safe, it's better to think with them and speak with them about hybrid learning, blended learning, about individual training, that maybe a teacher comes into their home every day for 1 hour. So you have to maybe rearrange your entire setup, your schedule, or that they do something with the children. You give them some exercises with what they can do at home so that they also can keep up. And then you have parents who say, okay, we don't have a person who is at risk in our family, and we are not so much scared. We are taking the measurements, we are taking the precautions, and this is why we are fine with our children to come back. So it is also good maybe that you make a poll, or you make an open discussion, or you just call the parents and say, how are you feeling? What are you doing? In general, we know that distance is one situation that can help the coronavirus to not spread so fast. When we are dealing in preschool with very young children, they will not understand this concept. And it is more damaging to them if we are not allowing them to socialize with other children than to keep them home. So as long as a preschool is not ready to really say, okay, we allow the children to commingle, we are still careful, but we have lower numbers, we are cleaning regularly. If a child has a little bit of sniffle, we ask the parents to keep them home. If there's a little coughing, we ask the parents to keep them home. But in general, they should be interacting with other children, because otherwise you're creating even a more traumatic situation than the children are already in. This present moment, this situation, how it was dealt with, I am waiting for the reports of the child psychologists and the experts. Because from my more than 20 years of experience, I would sense that there must be a kind of trauma in the children already. Not to socialize from one day to the other, not being able to understand what's going on, feeling the fear around them if the parents were fearful. All of this, it's kind of an emotional energy that normally is when the human being is in a dangerous situation. And when a human being feels to be in a dangerous situation, the bodily system changes a lot, adrenaline changes, everything changes, stress changes, and all of this has an effect on the human being. So this will become visible the longer this will go on, and especially when we go back to normal, because whenever there's a de-stressing happening, things that are caused before are allowed to become present. And teachers and educators should be trained to deal with that situation then, because we need to understand that those next 1.5 years, we have a lot to do in the social emotional competence level and skill level. Again, let me summarize. I recommend you to first analyze your region and your area, analyze the families you're dealing with, speak with them, communicate with them, then also see that you have smaller groups. If parents are afraid to give their children into the school, preschool, have hybrid learning. If you want, I can make a video on hybrid learning. You need to put it in the comments so that I know what you want and what you need. So you might have to work a little bit on both sides. This will anyhow become more and more interactive and interesting. There can be something like a homeschooling, schooling system which is combined. And you can make different fees for that if you're a principal. There are so many things that the children are dealing with at the present moment. We have to understand that the next 1.5 years, we will not just go back to normal with our work. We cannot just do like if it never happened, especially after such a long time. If you're still not in your reopening of the preschool. You really have to be aware about that. You will have to work with the children to see that the emotional and social balance is there and that the children do not carry a long time trauma from that. We will see what we will be facing on the days when we go back. Not on the first day, not on the second day, not in the first week, but over the time period of some weeks, it will become more and more visible. So I highly recommend you to think about smaller groups and more educators so that you are able to really help the children to readjust, relax their systems and de-stress from that and recap it and work with it so that at the end of the day it's released. Please do not forget to subscribe and to share this video with your friends and educators, but also with parents, because I really believe that this is a time where parents and educators have to work together and have to work hand in hand. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming back to us over and over again. I hope these videos are really useful. Put it in a comment if they are useful for you, because this is what I try to do. I try to create useful videos for you. And please do not forget to subscribe, to like, and to stay tuned. Have a wonderful day. Hear you soon.